Hello, you beautiful people. And James. And welcome back, guys. So today we bring you another new video, and this one is part 2 of the first Punic War from Oversimplified. So yeah, man, let's see how the Romans conquered more.
Yeah, there you go, man. We left y'all hanging long enough. Now we got to finish what we started. I don't know.
right.
Is there a part 3?
No.
Don't think
Not
so.
that I-
No.
not
All
that I
right,
know of.
cool. All right, I'm ready.
If you haven't already, please click the subscribe button, like the video, and don't forget that ring the bell.
It looks like this. Look, I'll demonstrate it. There you go.
Oh.
Yeah.
After the gigantic battle at Cape Ecnomus, the Romans were now free to land on African soil. And so, they did. The Carthaginians chose to focus on defending the city of Carthage itself. So the Romans immediately took the city of Aspis, and were then free to raid
the
and plunder the
Carthagins were black.
countryside. They took over 20,000 slaves
No.
and
They're
a
in
ton
Africa, though.
of booty. But then,
Nah,
some
I
orders
wanted to
arrived from
attack
the
me.
Senate. Send home the booty.
Oh, but I want to stay.
Oh no.
No,
There's
Steve,
no
not
pants on.
you. They mean the treasure.
Steve.
Well, we are not watching any more of this filth.
Oh wow.
So the other consul left with the booty, leaving
went.
Regulus and his forces on their own. And they began advancing towards Carthage. Along the way,
Wow.
according to the ancient
Children.
writer Livy, they encountered a literal dragon. Now, Livy
Yes,
was
they
a
did.
Roman historian, so his account may be slightly exaggerated. But
No.
this, I believe.
I believe it.
As the
Yeah,
Romans
100%.
continued to plunder, the
Dragons
Carthaginian
exist.
Of
people
course.
flooded into
Romans
the city.
wiped them out.
Now,
Yeah.
No, Romans
not
wiped
only
them
was
out.
it in a
Conquered
major
them.
panic,
You're
but it
damn
was
right
so
they did.
crowded, the people
killed
began
everything.
to starve. Don't panic, everyone! Look, I know you're all starving,
That worked.
but I still have food for me. So, you know, it's not all bad.
Whoa!
Oh, snap.
You're wasting your tomatoes.
I was gonna say that.
Oh well, it's just more food for me.
Oh snap.
Things weren't looking
You
good
look like
for
James.
Carthage. They had to do something to stop the Romans rampaging throughout their
You got
land.
a
So they
freaking tractor
decided,
back there, bro.
finally, it
Just
was
moving
time
them out.
to put an end to it. They headed out and set up
Like
on
this
rough,
video.
hilly terrain overlooking the
I
Roman
like
camp,
this.
and
Hey,
they
look, the black guys
prepared
on the horses.
for battle. Now, while the Carthaginians were the traditional masters of the
I knew they
sea,
had black guys
on
there.
land, they weren't always the brightest. Case in point, setting up in this position, overlooking the Roman camp, was just about the stupidest thing they could have done. Why?
Deposit.
Well,
That's fake, man. The black man will be on the horses. The white man would be on the horses, right? Right? Back in the day?
Not them times, no.
No. This is
Cut that out then.
Yeah. There's no such thing like. Back then, it was like cultures. Doesn't matter what color you were. It was just like if you weren't from that
Yes.
city, you're a dick. It
okay.
was cities, really. Yeah.
That's why, yeah, we need to bring that back.
Yeah, like,
No.
it was just
Cultures
about
are
the
different.
stupidest thing they could have done. Why? Well, there's
They were-
something you gotta understand about Carthage. The Carthaginian land forces actually suffered from a multitude of different issues. First of all, since the Carthaginians were rich, they could afford to pay a huge number of foreign mercenaries to fight for them. These mercenaries actually made up the vast majority of Carthage's forces, and therefore, Carthage's land armies were a melting pot of many different cultures. This,
So
however,
Carthage was the
meant that
first
if a
America.
battle wasn't going their way, there could be loyalty issues. Man, I ain't getting paid
Multi-race.
enough for this. You lyric slingers better not be thinking of running away. What did he say? I don't know, man. I don't speak Phoenician. Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
Clearly, there were also language issues.
Nah,
The military generals tended to be Carthaginian, but they made a lot of strange decisions. For example, one of the most feared assets of the Carthaginian army were the war
Oh,
elephants.
snap. They
To a
went the
Roman
wrong way.
soldier who had never even seen an elephant before, this was like fist fighting, a literal monster. Yet the Carthaginians continually kept placing the elephants in the rear, where they were no use. In a
Yeah.
similar fashion, the neighboring region of Numidia provided Carthage
Idiots.
with the most skilled cavalrymen in the world. But the Carthaginians often chose to fight on rough, uneven terrain, where horses
Wow.
and elephants were less effective.
Wow.
And so, In this case, when the Carthaginians again chose the rough terrain near the Roman camp, the
So they're setting themselves up for failure at every turn.
It's like their leaders were
Dumb. So they had help from neighboring factions.
Nations,
Yeah,
yeah.
neighboring. They had help from everybody, and it was like
Self-defeating.
We got elephants. Ooh, let's just
Put
not
them over here.
let's just not bring them this time, and let's fight on
Yeah.
this hill. Let's fight on this cliff with horses. Man, get out of here, man.
Romans easily sent them packing. Wow, Regulus, we're mere miles from Carthage. You sure are amazing. Yes, Steve, I know. Steve,
That booty.
what's the matter? We've almost won. I just wish I could be as great as you, Regulus.
Oh, no.
Steve,
Here we
you're
go.
amazing. I mean, look at this thing.
Oh,
It's unbelievable.
It is
I
pretty
know,
nice.
but I mean, like,
It is.
at war
What's your
stuff.
pronouns?
I'm such a noob. My tanks always get blown up. I can't even fly an aircraft straight. Tanks?
hold on.
Aircraft?
Wait,
What are you talking about, Steve?
He's from the
I'm
future.
talking about free-to-play online multiplayer combat.
There we go.
This video's sponsored.
That is slick.
Thunder.
That nice. That's
War
nicely
Thunder
done, man.
is the most comprehensive vehicle
That's how
combat
you do an
game
ad.
ever made.
Just
Just drive the tanks, become one with the
I know
tank.
the thick ass.
You can play as more than 2,000 battleships,
That's it.
aircraft,
Hey,
tanks,
let's play this,
and
guys.
helicopters in
Yeah.
dynamic player versus player combat.
That was
With
fun.
amazing
Oh,
4K
PvP.
graphics, each vehicle
If
is
he can get a
incredibly
sponsorship
detailed
for a
and modeled
video
down to
game
their
without being a
individual
video game
components.
channel.
And for history nerds like you and I, the vehicle
That was a
collection in War
nice
Thunder
ad. That was
spans over
nice. I
100
appreciate
years of
that.
military development, from the 1920s to the present day. I love the detailed damage mechanics in War Thunder. You ever think about how the exact angle a shell hits an armored vehicle affects the resulting damage? War Thunder has. Every bullet and shell is simulated
game
with
was pretty
realistic
cool.
destruction.
Why haven't I heard of
That's
this?
the kind of thing that gets me up in
You
the
mentioned
morning.
the ad, but
and
you
by
just
using
skip the
my
ads.
link in the description below, new and existing
I see this
users
on
can get
YouTube
an
all the time.
exclusive
No.
oversimplified
Do you like
decal to make their T50
I've never
tank
played it. I've never
look
clicked on it.
extra spicy.
I did click
Plus,
on Rage
you'll
Shadow
get a
Legends, but-
huge bonus pack, including premium vehicles and
limited, though. It
boosters.
makes you wanna spend
so
money.
play War Thunder now
Nah.
on PC,
me,
Xbox, and
I can't beat the
PlayStation.
Dale boss.
And as
Nice.
always, by using my link, you'll be supporting my
What, do you play
channel.
Raid as well?
So
we'll
thank
click
you.
that link
Now where
Oh,
were we?
have you got the new skeleton
yeah.
dude?
on what?
Raid.
No, I suck at that game, Bulldog.
I love
I
you
don't know
too.
what the hell
Oh,
I'm doing. Yeah.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know what. I don't know.
Invading Africa, getting some booty, and sending the Carthaginians packing.
about it
Everything
later,
was
though.
looking up for Regulus. A Roman victory seemed like it was only a matter of time. But then, Regulus realized
His arms are
something.
gone.
He had been consul for almost a year, and his term was coming to an end. He knew that if his successor took over and he finished
There
the
you go,
job,
James.
then he would get the naked statues, not Regulus. And there was no way Regulus was going to allow that. So he jumped the gun.
What?
You there, Carthaginian boy. I want you to deliver a message to your elders.
Boy.
I, Marcus Attilius Regulus, demand the total and unconditional surrender of Carthage. Unconditional surrender? Jeez, at least lay siege and starve us all to death first. Just deliver the message, you punk! He demands your total surrender. What? Jeez, at least lay siege and starve us all to death first. Hey, that's what I said. Well, boys, this Roman thinks we're out. But we're not out, are we, boys? No! We'll do what we always do in times like this.
Go find those.
Hire
things.
somebody else
Pay
to
'em off.
solve our problems for us.
Oh,
Exactly.
Darren,
Hire someone else.
bring in the Spartan.
Here we are.
oh no.
Regulus's overly harsh demands had the unintended effect of reinvigorating Carthaginian resolve.
They only can
brought
afford
in a
300 though.
mercenary from the famed land of Sparta named Xanthippus to help dig them
Don't
out of
think
this
it's
situation.
Exempt.
And
I
we
know,
all know
I know,
what
I
Spartans
know.
Sparta
are.
would not have been
Oh,
the
kick
same.
him.
Xanthippus showed
This is
up
bad.
and
No.
immediately took charge. He had to look around and said, "You idiots, put the elephants in front of the army so they can smash into the Romans. And stop fighting on rough, uneven terrain. Find a big flat field so your superior cavalry can do their job."
Yeah.
And what's this I hear about you giving a speech telling everyone they're gonna die? Hey, I was just telling the people the truth.
Oh
You're
my
a
God.
politician. Lie to the people.
Oh. Yeah.
And so Xanthippus led out the newly reformed Carthaginian army to meet Regulus in the Battle of the
Xanthippus.
Bagridas River. The elephants, now in the front, smashed into the Roman lines, causing disarray. The cavalry, with total freedom of movement, outflanked the Roman infantry. Thanks to this impressive
Some got away.
Spartan, the battle was a total Carthaginian victory. And Xanthippus, for his stunning victory, was forced to flee Carthage because the leadership got jealous. Regulus, the Roman consul, was captured during the battle. Legend has it, he was brought before the Carthaginian council, and they
got him.
made a proposition. Well, Reggie, not looking so good anymore, is it? Looks like we beat you pretty bad, huh? Up
Oh,
yours,
no, it's
you
green.
puny pansies! Now, Regulus, nobody likes a sore loser, do they? No. How about this? We're gonna send you back to Rome, and you convince the Roman Senate to surrender to us. If you fail, though, you gotta come back so we can torture you to death.
So bad.
Okay?
Such a bad.
Okay.
So bad.
You
guy is
promise?
ignorant.
So
I
bad.
promise.
You know, just
guys.
let him
Whoa,
back.
Regulus.
Look what they're
Go
We
playing.
thought you
free.
got captured. I did, but they sent me back to convince you to surrender. Well, should we? Surrender? No! Never surrender! Give him hell, boys.
So
They're
now
at
he's
the
supposed to
end
go
of their
back
rope.
and turn
Anyway,
himself in.
I gotta go be tortured to death now.
No, he's not
What?
gonna go back.
Yep, part of a deal I made. It's a long story. Oh, hey, wait! Regulus! No, it's cool, guys. I promised. Regulus! This is ancient times. We massacre entire populations. We chop pets in half. You can break a promise. No, Tim! You never break a promise. That's
He is
too
not.
far. And so, Regulus went back to
didn't go
Carthage
back.
and
What?
was tortured to death. And for keeping his promise, he was immortalized as the
Oh.
leading symbol of Roman virtue.
I don't
Fair.
understand.
After their defeat in Africa,
Fair.
the remaining
He literally
Roman
got what he wanted
survivors
'cause he-
still in Africa.
It is fair,
We're still
because
in
now
Africa,
he's a living legend.
And they needed to be.
All he wanted was a statue, and he got it.
Yes. Yes.
And the
he
thing
got it.
is, him doing that set a precedent for Rome for the future as well, of being a loyal to your word, most probably
yeah,
as well.
Yeah, stick to your word, my guys.
Yeah.
Word.
Be rescued.
Your word is everything.
Yeah,
your word
yeah.
is your bond.
He
If you lose
literally,
that-
yeah. Oh yeah, you ain't shit if you're lying all the time.
So the Romans sent their fleet to
You tell
pick
me
him up
breathing is
and
healthy,
bring
I'll
him
stop
home.
breathing.
They successfully fended off a Carthaginian fleet, grabbed the survivors, and made their way to Sicily. A great success. But then, things took a turn
ships.
for the worse.
Weather.
Sir? That cloud looks kind of angry. Fear not, coward.
Oh.
If we Romans can build a war fleet from scratch and defeat the Carthaginian Empire at their own game, why, then even Mother
Why,
Nature
then?
herself will crumble
this guy's
before
voice.
us. I laugh in the face of Mother Nature. Ha ha!
Lightning.
See?
Something.
Come on, guys. Laugh
Yeah.
at Mother
Yeah,
Nature
like,
with
yeah,
me.
Look at that. Look at those clouds.
The worst.
284 ships, nearly
Noise with his arms
80% of the Roman
Look
fleet
how close that
was
land is, though.
destroyed.
Just swim,
As
man.
many as
Wow.
100,000
They can't swim, you remember?
men
What?
drowned in a terrifying act of
100,000?
nature. Never before had Rome lost so many men in a single incident. 100,000
I feel bad for them.
casualties for any other nation
many?
would be crippling. Any other
That's a lot of
nation would hastily sue for peace.
Any other
Any
nation.
other nation would spend
Yeah.
decades trying to recover.
Rome will blame
But
Carthage.
Rome was not just any other nation.
I didn't hear no
Infamous
bell.
for its unrelenting determination in the face of overwhelming odds, Rome said, well, I guess we'll just have to build another fleet. And they did. In just 3 months, they built 220
No
more ships.
way.
Now,
An
work
astonishing
ethics.
feat. The
Oh, you
Romans
wrote
sent
that,
out their
Bulldog.
brand spanking
Did
new
they
war
do that in
fleet.
the first
And-
time? As well, with their first ever
And
fleet.
again.
They got caught in another storm. This time, a whole nother fleet was lost. And still, the Romans did not give up. The Carthaginians couldn't believe it. Their enemy had just lost hundreds of thousands of men, had 2 fleets almost entirely destroyed, and they still wouldn't surrender. As one Roman poet put it, the victor is not victorious if the vanquished does not consider himself so. In typical Roman fashion, after a short break, they were
Like, you
once
didn't beat
again
me up.
building another fleet.
I just stopped
However,
fighting.
For now, after all the disasters at
just
sea,
decided to go to sleep.
the focus began shifting back to the land campaign in Sicily. The Carthaginians, overconfident from recent successes, attempted to retake Panormus, but the Romans countered the terrifying war elephants by throwing stuff at them and scaring them away.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Having stopped the Carthaginian
turned
advance,
around.
the road was now open to the final Carthaginian stronghold on the island, Lily
I think
Biome.
they had to get the
Lilybium
elephants
was
there.
an extremely well-fortified
true.
city.
Wow.
In 250 BC, the Romans laid siege. The Carthaginian defense, however, was fierce, and skilled blockade runners
Right.
kept the city supplied. Progress was so slow that the
big ass
siege
wall.
would last another 9 years. To make
Insane.
matters
What?
worse, the
Wait,
Carthaginians
wait.
later sent
That's a long
9
siege.
years for
Yo,
siege?
Didn't this war start? What was it? Was it 2070? I mean 270 or
Yeah,
260?
it's been going for a long time, hasn't it? I
So
think,
so from
already?
270 down to 241. That's insane. I could be wrong, but I'm close.
Yeah, sieges last a long time, especially like that city still getting supplies, so they're going to be
Yeah,
getting
from the back.
food, water, men.
They're
Yeah. So,
By the end of this, they're probably gonna lose way more than they're gonna get. This is insane, yo.
But I don't understand. Look at that piece of land that they have compared to everything else that they own. Why lose more people to this losing battle? Just
Because
go home
They want to
and,
win.
and defend your land.
who? Carthage.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're talking
no,
about.
because this is like that sea is huge, so they've got like a stronghold here. If they lose that, they've got no land on that area. They have to invade then. That's the last
And if
castle.
they already went back home, and then the Romans sieged their land. They came to them, and yeah. So
So
yeah.
what they're doing now is just trying to drive Rome away.
Uh,
At
No,
the-
Rome's trying to drive them away from that island there.
yeah, but what I'm getting at is why are the Carthaginians still there?
because
Why don't they just leave?
if they lose that if they
Mhm.
lose that stronghold right here,
Yeah.
then the
Rome's
Romans can
going
go here.
straight back. Yeah, they're going straight back
So
to Carthage.
they're holding them here, so they won't go here.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I'm glad y'all can see my mouse. All right, here we go.
Yeah, I saw you.
possibly the greatest
Yeah, we see
military
this.
general of the time, a man named Hamilcar Barca, to the island.
Hamilcar
He engaged in
Barca.
a skillful
I like that
campaign
beard.
of guerrilla warfare behind enemy
like that
lines,
name.
and for the remainder of the war, he was a major thorn in the
yep.
Roman
Bam.
side. For now, with the deadlock
Right up
siege
his
at
ass.
Lilybium
I like the
and the
name
new
Titus.
Roman fleet at sea, things seem to be at a standstill, and the
Mhm.
Romans had to do something to break the deadlock. Thankfully, the Roman consul, Clodius Pulcher, had an idea. He tried to get things moving by attacking the Carthaginian fleet at Drepana. Now, before a battle, to predict if they would win, it was common for the Romans to look for signs from the gods. This could mean observing the weather or inspecting some cow livers. You know, typical religion
Eat that
stuff.
shit, Liver King.
In this case,
Stupid.
Pulcher reportedly tried to feed some sacred chickens,
I got jacked
but
as shit,
unfortunately for him,
Steroids.
they wouldn't eat a crumb. A very
He's
bad
natural.
sign. Well,
He said he's-
if they won't eat, then let them drink. Stupid chickens! We'll observe the weather
The human
instead.
body cannot grow. that way.
Gods, give me a sign.
Uh-oh,
Ignore that.
uh-oh.
Okay, how about this? If I can get this piece of paper into that trash basket, we'll win. Okay,
do the pin
if I
challenge.
can stand here silently for 5
Yes.
seconds and do nothing, we'll win. Vulture chose to ignore the signs
He
from
was
the
so
gods,
close.
and in the following battle, the superior Carthaginians tore them to shreds. It also didn't
Wow.
help that by now the Romans had removed the corvus to stabilize their ships, and without their secret weapon, it was a disaster, and Pulcher was disgraced. To
Why
make
they
matters
change their
worse,
stuff
the
up?
victorious Carthaginian fleet then went on to intercept the Roman
Leadership.
supply fleet on its way to Lilybium. As they approached, however, they saw the signs of an incoming storm, so
we
they
go.
took shelter. The Romans, on the other hand, said, "Onward, men! Set sail! We've got
They
to
don't
deliver these
learn.
supplies stat." But sir, those clouds, don't you think we ought to have learned our lesson by now? Yes, Brian, we ought to have. But
Right.
we haven't. Another fleet and
Where's the horse?
50,000 men lost
50,000.
in another storm.
1,000.
Disaster.
Insane.
The
At this
horse.
point, there still really isn't a clear winner. Sure, the Romans have captured most of Sicily and cornered the Carthaginian land forces at Lilybium, but the continued disasters at sea were critically depleting their resources. And
The
without a
sea's-
strong
the
fleet,
sea's just killing
Rome
Rome.
could not
That was the
win.
hurricane right there. James.
Meanwhile,
Yeah.
Hamilcar Barca was still knocking about and creating even more problems. So,
Oh, shit.
where do we
Guerrilla
go from here?
warfare.
How
Yeah.
does this war finally end. By now, the two sides had been fighting for 23 years. They
23.
were exhausted.
Jake Paul
Their money,
versus
their resources, their strength were all utterly spent.
It's
The
a long
Carthaginians
war,
in
23
particular
years.
were eager to see the war end so they could
Balance
get back to
zero.
trading and making
That's an
money.
online bank
So
right
after
there.
the latest
Yeah.
Roman disaster at sea, they said, look, there ain't no way in heck the Romans can come back again. They can't possibly afford to build another fleet. They're done. That's it. Recall the navy, repurpose them as merchant ships, and let's get back
What?
to making some money. Assuming
Oh.
the Romans would soon make peace,
Bad
an anti-war
leadership.
faction within the government recalled a large portion of the navy, leaving Hamilcar on his own. The victors appeared to be declaring themselves victorious.
Wow.
Meanwhile, the vanquished were getting ready for round 5. The Romans built another
have no
fleet,
spies,
this time
man.
heavily relying on patriotic donations from the upper classes to
Patriotic.
afford it.
What?
And once again, they put to sea. Sir, the Romans have built another fleet. Oh, for goodness sake, Clarence, can't you see I'm busy rolling around in this pile of money? But sir, I don't care anymore, Clarence. I just don't care. The Carthaginian politicians made a fairly lackluster final effort with a poorly built fleet
Oh no.
to supply their forces in Sicily. But
Wait.
when the brand new Roman fleet caught them at the Battle of the Aegean,
Oh,
even
yeah.
without their signature corvus, they dealt them the final blow. And that was that.
Did they win?
23
They won, right?
years of war. Neither side
20.
could afford to keep fighting, but the Romans showed that they intended to anyway. The Carthaginians had no choice but to throw in the towel. The war had been long and hard for both sides, but in the end, it was Roman determination that won
Determination.
the
Stubborn.
fight.
Stubbornness,
The Romans
Yes,
stubborn, not
exactly.
determination.
Trying
Oh,
to
man.
find a way
Hey,
to
stay
deliver the
consistent, bro.
knockout blow. They learned how to build a fleet and engage in naval combat.
Damn.
They developed ingenious new ways of waging war. They
Yep,
attempted an invasion of the Carthaginian heartland, and whenever
you ain't ready for
disaster
that.
struck them, they always came back again and again.
And
the
again.
Carthaginians, on the other hand, spent the entire war watching whatever Rome did and then figuring out how to respond. They were much more passive. And so, it's no wonder then that when both sides were close to collapse, Rome was the one who figured out how to go that little bit further.
Yep.
In 241 BC, the Carthaginian politicians sent word to Hamilcar Barca that he was on his own and could choose to make peace with the Romans if he wished.
Only if he
Hamilcar
wished.
was stunned. He felt betrayed by the politicians.
Yeah.
Some sources say he refused to even negotiate. Nevertheless,
That beard,
terms
though.
had to be drawn up. Well, Hammy,
Oh, so no,
I'm glad you Carthaginians have
Uh-oh.
finally come to your senses and recognized who the true winner is. How many fleets did you lose? Okay, here are our terms. You leave Sicily to us and return all of our prisoners. You're not allowed to make war against Syracuse or her allies, and you have to pay us 2,200 talents of silver over the next 20 years. What's
That's
a
not bad.
talent of silver?
Yeah.
Well, to put it in perspective, in the year 2022, that'll be worth around, let's say, 40 million US dollars.
Hey, bad.
Ay, caramba! That will cripple us. Wow, we got a real smart guy over here. Yeah, that's kind of the point, you dingus. Ugh, I guess I have no choice. I accept.
It's
Great.
over- it's over 20
by the
years
way,
ago, so-
we changed our minds. You actually have to pay us
Give it back
3,200 talents of silver over 10
Oh.
years. Thanks for accepting.
Dude!
See you later.
That's bad.
Hey, you didn't
Wow.
let me say uncool.
Wow.
Yeah.
You
Salesman.
didn't let me say uncool.
Salesman,
The
you didn't read
treaty
the fine-
was extremely punishing, and by switching up the terms at the last minute, they enraged the Carthaginians. But still, one of the longest and deadliest wars at the time was finally
Casuals.
over.
That's
The
just
Romans
unknown.
had
Well,
won.
hold on.
They
It was
achieved
a
their
deadliest
aim
because
of-
they killed himself through the storm.
Yeah.
Carthaginians didn't kill any Romes.
Well, them ones. So the ones that they know that drowned was like at least 200,000. So that doesn't count all
Yeah.
the wars and
That's
everything, man. So
insane.
it could have been 1 million people if you think about it.
What?
If they had fleets of hundreds of thousand people, just think how many they had on the land for battles.
They didn't have a
Yeah.
million people on Earth back then, Bulldog.
He's-
of gaining Sicily. And even though it wasn't part of the peace deal, they took advantage of a weakened Carthage and grabbed Corsica and
Good job, George.
Sardinia as well. Roman expansion beyond the Italian peninsula had just begun. The Romans hoped that now the Carthaginians would forever be under their thumb. Unfortunately, the harsh terms they placed on the Carthaginians at the end of the war left a growing anger, one that would come back to haunt them. One day, Carthage will have its revenge. That's nice, dear. I'm serious, woman.
Oh, no.
Maybe not in my lifetime, but perhaps in his. My beautiful son.
Hannibal.
What's your name? What's your name?
You are
Hannibal.
born into a momentous destiny.
Glorious
You
Maximus.
shall be Rome's greatest enemy. You'll tear Rome limb from
Son
limb.
of
You'll
Maximus.
burn their pathetic city into the ground. You'll slaughter their people, men, women, and children. My child, you
Oh shit.
are vengeance. Stop telling our
Batman?
baby he's vengeance. But he is, Barbara. He's vengeance.
Well, that's Batman.
That may be so someday, but for now,
That's the first
our
Batman.
son has
Yeah.
a name, and you should call him that instead. His name is...
Hannibal.
Hannibal.
How
Told you.
you know? How you know, Bulldog?
Because it's the guy who nearly defeated Rome.